I'm bored. So for no reason at all, let's go through my vinyl and how I have it organized. Yeah. All right, so I don't have my records in genre, and I do not have my records set up all in one section alphabetically. I kind of go through eras, and then it kind of breaks down into a couple genres. We'll get to that. Okay, so section one here is what I call pre-American music. This is all stuff like Vietnamese music, tribal music of Australia, stuff like this. What do we got here? Lots of Native American recordings. Yeah, lots of that kind of stuff. Lots of gamelan music, which I first discovered. I randomly bought a record in a quarter bin. There used to be a record shop in Madison called Sugar Shack, and they didn't have a dollar bin. They had a quarter bin, and I found some pretty awesome stuff back when I first moved to Madison in that store. And there was a lot of this stuff because you would just buy it randomly because it was a quarter. But yeah, gamelan music, I think I'm saying that right, don't really know. The Residents ended up doing several tracks. Yeah, but I actually knew of these kind of records first. Some Tibetan monks, stuff like this, like pre-Western music, anything like that. That's this chunk here. And then right after that is your 1920s to about 1960s country, blues, folk, more traditional kind of stuff. A little bit of 1970s in here, but generally my country and stuff tastes kind of end around the 1960s. But yeah, this is anywhere from your, Roy Acuff's, even, this one people might be surprised by, but Eddie Arnold. This is one of the best dollar bin records I've ever got. So yeah, Eddie Arnold stuff, Gene Autry, Blue Sky Boys is a really good one. Elton Britt, yodeling guy. Of course, Carter Family, lots of original Carter Family. You got to be careful with the Carter Family ones because, the old stuff is like 1920s through like the 1940s maybe. Lots of 1930s recordings. But they did keep going with like other generations, especially later on when Johnny Cash and June Carter were doing stuff. There's like a new version. I don't want to say anything bad about them, but it's not for me. Apparently in this one I have an old 1920s dollar bill just stuffed back there. Yeah, Carter Family, Wilf Carter, also very good. From here to here, that's all Johnny Cash. From his first record to his last record. I'm only missing a few of his. I have almost every studio album he's done. Yeah, all country stuff. John Fahey or Red Foley or Lee Hazelwood's in here. Some Billie Holiday. There are some other things like vocalists that I didn't know where to stick them. Your John Lee Hooker. Oh, Abner J. One of the best things ever. One-man band guy. Never on a big label or anything. This is what introduced me to Mississippi Records because this is one of the best things in here. I can't listen to it very much unless you want to be real bummed out. Yeah, there's some Waylon in here. Johnny Horton, stuff like that. All the original Hank Williams. I do have a couple Hank Juniors, some Mississippi comps and other compilations. Kitty Wells is another one that I have damn near everything of, from like here. It's not as big as the Johnny Cash section, but this is all Kitty Wells. Porter Wagner, Marvin Rainwater, really good stuff. Tex Ritter, some Jim Reeves. Jim Reeves get some decent dollar bin records there. Ooh, another really good Mississippi one, Washington Phillips. Les Paul, Buck Owens, Roger Miller, lots of Loretta Lynn, the Louvins, Solo and Louvin brothers, Hank Lachlan, Leadbelly, Chris Christopherson. The first two Chris Christopherson records are great, and also his last few records were really good. Lots of George Jones. Yeah. So that's section one. So we're kind of going through time here. And although that goes up into the 60s, generally I think of this as the pre-rock section. All right, so my second section, this is starting here. We got 1950s, rockabilly, doo-wop, etc. And that goes this cube, this cube, this cube, half of this cube. 3.5 cubes. And that's everywhere from, your more obscure, like Hassel Adkins, but your Hank Ballards, your Chuck Berrys, your Big Boppers, and your Jimmy Bowens, Ruth Brown. What else we got here? Big Johnny Burnett guy, whether with the trio, got demos, even his pop stuff, big fan of the Johnny Burnett. Cadillacs, look at this. This is another one from that quarter bin. It was probably kept in the sun, which is something that record shop I mentioned tended to do. Like the sun was just beating down on a lot of their stuff. But I got this for a quarter. It's noisy, but it's an original Fabulous Cadillacs. I'll take it. D. Clark, very good stuff. Got a bunch of that. The Coasters is one of my all-time favorite groups, actually. Your Eddie Cochran, all kinds of rock, rockabilly, pop. Oh, Bo Diddley have mostly first pressings. There are a couple reissues in here. Big Bo Diddley guy. Some cheesy Fabian records. Oh, lots of Fats Domino. All originals, all first pressings. I don't know if his stuff was even reissued. People don't get into Fats for whatever reason. Charlie Feathers. Yeah, this is, all your Buddy Hollies, stuff like that. Your Jerry Lee Lewis's. Lots of Little Richards. Oh, Jerry Lee Lewis. Little Richards. Little Richard. Even his gospel. He only made 2 rock albums. His third rock album was a throw what you have left together because he retired from rock. Then he did religious albums, which it's really weird. You expect them to be like crazy rock and religious records, but they're not. He sings in a deep voice. He's really trying to be a straight guy and a straight and narrow. But there's actually some good stuff in there. Come on, your Clyde McPhatter. stuff like that. Some Ricky Nelson, you know. Olympics is a good one. Very Coasters style. Charlie Rich. Oh, can't forget him. Jack Scott. Really like Jack Scott. Good stuff. This is one of the best religious rock albums ever. Like, this is like revved up, awesome gospel by a weird, muscly, white Canadian guy, Canadian nerd. It was really awesome stuff. Oh, another one. I don't go through my records much anymore, so I'm surprising myself here. The early Conway Twitty stuff. The only reason I got this, like, I never really thought about them. There's a record shop in Milwaukee called Flipville, ran by a guy named Jeffrey Werman. Really oddball guy, really cool shop that was like records and vintage toys and just random stuff all piled. Like, it looked like a hoarder's living room, and he just had like a half broken TV on in the corner he would stare at, and he didn't pay attention to you at all, and you just had to dig through it, but you would find really cool stuff, and he always gave a really good deal. He was a really nice, weird old man. He passed away some years ago. All right. Well, anything else? The Gene Vincent. Ooh, here's another guy, Larry Williams. Kind of like Little Richard, not as good. I went through all the Beatles records a few years ago and really like analyzed them all, and I found my two favorite really rockin' songs off the early Beatles stuff were both Larry Williams covers, I think sang by John. Just really belted those out. Yeah, so that's section 2. Section 3 is just this last 1.5 cubes, and that's Elvis, which kind of is the link between the 50s rock and the 60s stuff. At one point I had on average 4 or 5 pressings of every album he did. Now I generally stick to one, usually a first press mono, but once in a while I keep a mono and a stereo, because once in a while those early stereo ones actually sound better, or just like totally different. But yeah, Elvis, probably don't need to see that, you know who he is. This starts the next section, which is 1960s pop, girl groups, etc. So what I mean by this is basically rock kind of died around 1960. I mean, not only did you have like Buddy Holly and Big Bopper die, and Elvis was drafted, and then when Elvis came back, he kind of went into pop instead. So things weren't really rocking in the early 60s, but you did have these really cool girl groups, like the Angels, and what else do we got in here? But, I also have my James Brown in here. I don't know what to do with James Brown because I don't really have like a funk or like soul section. And I really like his early stuff, which kind of sounds more, it's more like in the 50s. So I don't know what to do with him, so I just have him stuffed in here. It's sort of like the miscellaneous 60s era. So yeah, it's girl groups, it's like instrumental bands like the Arrows. Let's see, I got some early James Brown stuff. Oh, also Solomon Burke, another really great soul guy, I guess it would be. Champs are in here. Chiffons, another girl group. The Crystals, another great girl group. Dick Dale, more instrumental stuff. Dixie Cups. You also get your 60s pop vocalist that I'm sure people don't think I would like, but Rel Donner, big Rel Donner guy. Ronnie Dove. Shirley Ellis. This is really good. It's her first album. It was live. She then had a studio album. This is a reissue though, and I'm not too glad about that. We're foreign. I'm not sure where this guy is from. Ethiopian. He's known as the Ethiopian Elvis. That's a really good album. Everly Brothers. Big Everly Brothers fan. This is, let's see. This is all Everly Brothers. But if you find this one, this is the best. It's not, it's more like just classic traditional folk songs. It's a lot sadder than what they then got famous for. Fleetwood's is another super square pop vocal group that I like. What do we got? What do we got? Leslie Gore. Ooh, another really good soul guy. It's a terrible picture. I don't know why I put that on the cover. Little Bob. You got some Sandy Nelson drum records. And of course, Roy Orbison. He's kind of the king of the 60s pop vocal guy. Yeah, lots of Roy. The Orlons, really awesome girl group that a lot of people don't know. Wilson Pickett. So yeah, there is some soul stuff in here. It just doesn't get its own section, and it's actually later 60s, so it doesn't really make sense in here. Gene Pitney, another nerdy pop guy I like. Otis Redding. So yeah, there's some of that kind of stuff. Tommy Rowe, total 60s pop. This is a great album. He totally started as just a Buddy Holly ripoff, but done in a really good way. Like if Buddy Holly lived, this is a good last Buddy Holly album basically. Yeah, Tommy Rowe's got some other good stuff. Ronettes. And yeah, Linda Scott. Heard of her because of David Lynch. I think David Lynch is the reason a lot of people like Roy Orbison. A lot of stuff like that. Shangri-Las. Okay, so yeah, that's enough of that. Bobby Vinton. That's another nerd, pop nerd I like. So after you have that, you got the 60s rock psych Brits. So when rock comes back, a lot of it is the British invasion or whatever. It also, this has like your psych. All it is almost two cubes of this stuff. But yeah, your Beatles and the weirder Tim Buckley albums. Highly recommend those psychedelic, weird Tim Buckley ones. Weird Taiwan pressing of Animals. But yeah, your Eric Burden, your early Neil Diamond, very good stuff. Early Donovan, better than Bob Dylan. Fugs. Electric Prunes. The first Dr. John album. This is a dollar bin find. Very good. Some pretty awesome psychedelic stuff in there. July, a little bit more obscure on the psych scale. All the 60s Kinks. I don't like 70s Kinks. It's like as soon as Arthur was their last great album, and then they did that Lola album, which is okay, and then I can't listen to anything else by them. Manfred Mann, surprisingly good. Ooh, Mungo Jerry. I like these guys. They're like creepy hippies, which I don't like the peace and love hippies. I like the hippies that are borderline Manson people here. Love. Oh yeah, so yeah, you know, Rolling Stones, stuff like that. Seeds. Some oddballs. This is a really good album. Oh, Them. I can't stand solo Van Morrison, but Them was awesome. Ooh, Midwest Obscure Awesome Psych, SRC. Very cool oddball. White Noise. It's weird psychedelic creeper stuff. Oh, Trogs. I like Trogs a lot more than the Beatles as well. Yeah, Yardbirds, that stuff. And then we got your 70s classic rock, prog rock, artsy stuff. So yeah, in the late 60s, it was kind of like peaking with weirdness. How weird can we go? And some people kept going with that. But mostly it kind of ended up going the other way and going back the rock route, which is also fine. There's some great 70s rock, but I mean, that's where you get we branched off to like the super fucking weirdos or back to norms. But yeah, this has anywhere from, you know, like your Amon Duel, which is like really good German stuff. I don't have a generic krautrock section because krautrock is used for anything from like just straight up psych rock if the band's German, like Can and Amon Duel, to like total electronic like Mobius, Kraftwerk, and that doesn't make any sense to me just because they're all Germans. Amon Duel has nothing to do with Kraftwerk. But yeah, I got Amon Duel albums, Amboy Dukes, you know, Blue Cheer, some real rockin' 70s stuff here, David Bowie's, all my Can records, your Leonard Cohen's, your Alice Cooper's. Gotta have the album With the Finger. If you're not familiar with this, first he has his finger through the fly. Then there's a version where they airbrush that out. There's also a version where they just crop it. I used to have I really like cover variations, so I used to have one of each of all those, but it gets ridiculous. This is what I have left after selling like thousands of records. I probably sold 3,000 records. I probably have something like 3,000 left. Yeah, the Deep Purples, that's another one worth mentioning. You gotta have, I don't know, the non-American version, the German and I think European. I'm not sure if it's all the European pressings, but they have like a longer, more like shredding guitar intro to the album. Not that big of a deal, but it just kicks the album off better. Yeah, your Doors, your Dust, kind of Deep Purple-y rockin'. Fun fact, Marky Ramone was the drummer before he was a Ramone. Your ELP, I got a lot of stuff like this that I liked as a little kid because it was played in my house. Then I went through a whole, I fucking hate that kind of shit. And now I really like it again. My mom listened to this a lot. So yeah, a lot of stuff that my mom listened to, Foreigner, Pat Benatar, stuff like that, I now like. Peter Gabriel is very cool because he would re-record his albums in German. This is like when people were realizing how cool Germany is and their awesome music. So a few people did this. His third album and his fourth album. He has an English version and a German version, and they're really good. So yeah, I got all my early Genesis records, all the Hawkwinds, you know, Your Heart. Everyone needs, like, if you're gonna have a Jethro Tull record, just get this Jethro Tull record. You don't need, they are not a deep cut full album kind of band. You know, your Kansas records, prog rock with fiddles, Southern boys doing prog rock on fiddles. That's pretty awesome. All your King Crimson stuff. Got a couple Kiss records. Kind of big. Here's my deal with Kiss. They're terrible. But it's kind of awesomely terrible. They're terrible people. They're also not good at playing. You don't have to be good at playing though. And so yeah, they're definitely a shtick band. But here's what I kept: Love Gun, pretty solid. Destroyer, good. Hotter Than Hell, and the first one. That's all you need. You don't need any of that other stuff. Yeah, the Led Zeppelins. Then you get more into the arty weirdos. One of my all-time favorites here, Nico. So yeah, lots of Nico. Oh, here's a Ted Nugent on top of it. So yeah, the classic rock section is what? 1, 2, 3, like three and a half cubes of this 70s rock era. Pink Floyd. I don't know if that's surprising you or not, but I really like Pink Floyd. I hate David Gilmour. He's a very good producer. He's a good guitar player, but he's a douche. He's a douchebag. Yeah. He does things like first pressing of The Wall, really big inside. It's like, you know, all songs like written by Roger Waters, and then like he's a crybaby, so they took that off, and now the biggest thing on all later pressings when you open it up is produced by David Gilmour. It's like, I don't know. He definitely has some issues. This is a, people hate this. This is the Pink Floyd album that came out after The Wall. I actually really like it. It sounds like the weird deep cuts on The Wall, like the weird, sad Roger Waters at the piano, which are actually some of my favorite songs. So I like this. It's not perfect, because you can tell the rest of the band didn't want anything to do with it, but it's a good album. It's a lot better than Learning to Fly, David Gilmour, Pink Floyd. Queen, odd picks for Queen, but my favorite Queen albums are Sheer Heart Attack, News of the World, and Flash fucking Gordon. Those are, I don't need Bohemian Rhapsody or Killer Queen. I've heard that enough. Obscure prog rock with Brian Eno. The one Lou Reed album I like. Roxy Music. So yeah, you get your arty people, your Rush, your Sparks. Well, here's an oddball one. Salem, Mass, Witch Burning. This is a really, you know, it's great. They're not very good, one of those things. The first two Scorpions albums. I hate Scorpions, but these two albums are really good. Again, they're not krautrock. You'll hear people say like, oh, the first couple albums are krautrock. No, they're not. They're just good albums. All right. Talk enough about this section. Oh, really good Dollar Bin record. The Sweet. It's really good rockin' stuff. T-Rex. I'm a big T-Rex guy. Not Tyrannosaurus Rex. I don't like that early stuff with the bongos. The T-Rex stuff. Just the first Van Halen album. Ooh, the first Uriah Heep record. I mean, if you like Deep Purple style, this is right there. Your Velvet Underground. Yes, I like Yes a lot. I recently discovered how much I like this one, which is funny. This is both the singer and the bass player of the Buggles, and I hate the Buggles. But for some reason, Yes plus the Buggles is a pretty good combo. And then I got most of what Neil Young's done, and that's that section. Okay, so after the classic rock, my next section here is 1970s, 80s, krautrock, synthesizers, weirdos. And this is where, in my opinion, music really gets a lot cooler. Like 50s was the beginning of coolness in music, and now this is like next level. It's also where, up until this time, the major labels had all the best music. Now it starts to break off. The major labels still have great music, but you see a lot more underground music and stuff happening. Anyways, this is getting real long, so I'm gonna try to go through it faster. You got everything from like your Laurie Anderson, Art Bears, really cool oddball weirdos. Harold Budd, one of my all-time favorite ambient albums. It's his first album. Of course, you got your Captain Beefheart. I don't know where this guy belongs. Started in the late 60s, but is way more extreme than everyone else. Goes up to the 80s. Even his 80s albums are great. Eric True Feldman plays on these later ones, who also played with Snakefinger. Here's another good example of the alternate covers. Wendy Carlos switched on Bach. This is the cover you always see everywhere. You can find it in the dollar bin, but this actually is not the original cover. This is the original cover. I don't know if you can see that. It was a scary Bach, so they changed it. But yeah, the best Wendy Carlos stuff, the actual Clockwork Orange album, not the soundtrack. Cluster with a K goes here because that turns into Cluster with a C, one of my all-time favorite groups. Not only one of my favorite groups, but the guys in the group, we'll see more of them. So yeah, this is all the Cluster stuff. Thomas Dinger, lots of German artists here. This is an Italian guy pretending to be a German guy. You've, of course, all your frippin' Enos, Eno. This is all Eno. Faust, really cool. All the old stuff and new stuff. Faust broke off, and there are actually two different groups called Faust now, and they're okay with each other. And I actually like the more modern Faust albums than the 70s stuff. Nurse with Wound with Faust. This album's really good. So yeah, you got a bunch of Faust. I try to keep up with those. The Robert Fripp solo albums, the Fripptronic ones. I don't really like his singing albums. Edgar Froese, I don't know how to say his name. Tangerine Dream guy. Don't play this very much because it's terrifying, but she's awesome. Philip Glass, only have a couple Philip Glasses. You don't really need a ton. Harmonia, another great album, especially this one. It's live, so it sounds just like the studio album, but faster, so I like this. John Hassel, one of my favorite guys I discovered through Eno. Lots of John Hassel. Yeah. How big is this section? 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, about four cubes of this kind of stuff. Who else is in here? Of course, all the Kraftwerks. First pressing Radioactivity, still shrink wrapped, has all the original stickers inside. And then eventually you need 2 copies of every one of their albums because you have the German language, English language, German, English, German, English. So yeah, all their albums starting with Trans Europe Express, you need both versions. La Dusseldorf, another great band. This is all Mobius. Mobius was one of the guys from Cluster. It was him and Rodilius. Noi, which is the original, two of the original members of Kraftwerk. Yoko Ono, okay. A lot of people, she's like the butt of every generic person's joke. And that tells me a lot about you. You are very lowbrow. You have terrible taste if you're making like Yoko Ono jokes. This is one of the first like totally out there noise albums. This is like 1971, I think. This is pre-Residence. I think it's so cool that John Lennon left the Beatles and like helped her with these like most extreme experimental albums of the day, and even to this day. This album my mom had, but she didn't listen to the Yoko songs, she only listened to the John songs. But then once I got to the age where I would take records to my room and listen to them myself, I discovered Kiss Kiss Kiss. So it was one of my first like, oh, I really like weird music. And her follow-up to that has John's bloody glasses on it. Those are his real bloody glasses from being shot. Cool German stuff. Steve Reich, you know, all the Ronaldo and the Loaf stuff. I released this one, which is their earliest stuff, and I also released this one, which was their comeback album. Very proud of that. Rhythm and Noise, oddball Ralph Records group, and not a lot of people know. Oh, Terry Riley, man, I haven't listened to this stuff in a while. Love me some Terry Riley. Some Rodilius solo albums. He's the other guy from Cluster. This is a really good one. Gunter Schickert, I believe. Gunter Schickert. Some Conrad Schnitzlers. I don't even know if I'm still in the camera at this point. It's a really good one. Lots of Klaus Schultz. He was also in Tangerine Dream. I actually like his solo albums better than most Tangerine Dream. Very minimal guy. He doesn't overly play, which I like. I don't like getting too wanky. It's a weird one. This has I can't think of his name. Can't think of his name right now. I'll type it out and put it on there. Silver Apples, original first pressing, late 60s oscillators and a huge drum set. Really cool duo. Their follow-up, which this killed them because they used a crashed airplane, so they got sued from the airline. Morton Subotnick, cool 60s electronic. All my Sun Ra stuff, which I don't have a ton anymore. I kind of stick to the more vocal-based Sun Ra albums. Tangerine Dream, he got all their early stuff in one box set. I kind of cut them off around here. I don't really get into their stuff after that. Teach-ins, I think I'm saying that right. Another really cool German guy, got a bunch of his stuff, got a couple Tomita. It's a cool, like, synthy rock, hippie psych band. US Steel Cello. Very weird droney, like, cello record. Oh, yeah, all my Soviet France original pressings. I was supposed to put out a record for them, but then they got into doing all these box set collections, but they're very nice to work with. They sent me a free copy, and I'm glad to have it on vinyl. So, down here is the residence. This is my residence section. Residence section is only 2.5 cubes these days. It used to be huge. I used to be one of those guys, multiple pressings of every record, you know, $400 LPs. Once I started working with them, I no longer cared about having the like collectibles. I don't know if that's weird or not, but getting to work with them it's a lot cooler. And then it's like, if you can never meet someone, it's really neat to have something that they actually screen printed, you know, back in the 70s, these like limited edition runs. But once I was working with them, that didn't really mean a whole lot. I don't know if that makes sense or not. I don't know. But yeah, now I don't usually do multiple pressings, except like all the stuff that I released. So out of these 2.5 cubes, apparently like 35 of these records I put out. So that's, I'm very, very happy to have done that, worked on all that stuff, not just releasing it, but also editing albums and doing other stuff. But yeah, I'd have to say, out of all the resident stuff you can get now, this is gonna sound jerky, but like the Secret Records vinyl and the Psycho Fun Records vinyl releases are the like only good vinyl you're gonna get. The major label stuff ranges from like mediocre or fine to absolutely terrible. But Psycho Fun, I hope I'm saying that right, sorry if I'm not, do these huge, elaborate, wonderful pressings. Like this is a whole fold-out mole show that looks like their stage plan and has cutouts and stuff like that. That's one of my favorite things they've done. And this one, really good album in a tinfoil sleeve. But yeah, anyways, so that's all resident stuff, which leads us to 70s and 80s classic punks. Now this is just 3 cubes basically. Basically, in my mind, unless you were a punk in like the mid 80s at the latest, you're not really a punk. I don't know, you're either probably in like a metal hardcore band or some sort of indie rock band, garage rock band. You're not a punk. So these are real punks. But if you're someone like, you know, Jello or, you know, Keith Morrison or someone like that that is still doing stuff, I will still consider your new band a punk band, if that makes any sense. But yeah, Agent Orange, the one and only good Bad Brains album. Hey buddy, you'll see my cat wearing a t-shirt. I'm not gonna explain that right now. Black Flag, original first pressing, they weren't allowed to use their name or the 4 bars or anything, so they just have the member names on it. While they were dealing with a legal dispute over the Damaged album. Yeah, most of these are first pressings, really good bootleg. Yeah, first pressings, all first pressings. Butthole Surfers, I don't know where to put them. They're total weirdos, they're all over the place. They're 90s music, they've done everything, and they don't do much punk. This one's punk, that's about it. But yeah, I put them in here because to me, that's kind of what original punk was. It was, everyone was different. Buzzcocks, really good. The one and only good Circle Jerks album. Clash, another one I have 2 of because the US version and UK version are so different. Really good German girl punk band. Punk. Cramps go in here, even though they're not all that punk either. I don't know what to do with them. Crass, Damned, Dead Boys, Dead Kennedys. First pressing Frickin' Christ with the Geiger poster, however you want to say it. I have all the Jello Biafra stuff in the Dead Kennedy section just because it's easier for me. So his album with Mojo, Lard, his albums with Melvins, Guantanamo School of Medicine, etc. Then you got Dead Milkman, you got Death, you got Descendants, you got Dickies, you got DMZ, really good. Eater, one of my favorite albums. The first Fear album. Almost all this stuff is first pressings. I also put my, oh, here's a really good one. Also early Marky Ramone, pre-Ramones. I put all my Iggy and the Stooges in punk. To me, they're the first punk band along with Ramones. And I keep all my Iggy Pop records and Stooges records together. To me, it's, even though, yes, they're different bands. Yeah, punk. I don't know if I need to bring up anything else. Ramones are all like first pressings. One of my favorite bands. My mom showed me Rock and Roll High School when I was a little kid. This is a really cool one. French guy pretending to be a punk, but it works really well. Plasmatics, absolutely love. Wendell Williams. Misfits, dumb but great. Oh, I was supposed to put this out, and I was talking with Subterranean Records, and they're like, good luck with that, and he warned me about crazy people involved with this band. The main guy was super nice, and the drummer, who's also the drummer of the Germs, was super nice. They're into it. Some crazy people stole the masters. There's a lot of threats of everyone being sued. The guys from Subterranean sent me like extra original jackets. Yeah, really great. Like the first synth punk album, really good. It's been put out now by Dark Entries, and I asked them like, how did you get the master? Because I know it was stolen, and they kind of avoid my questions. I haven't bought it yet, but I don't think it's the real mix. I think they probably used the 90s CD remix, which is an absolutely terrible remixed version of the album. If you have an original and the reissue, please compare them and let me know, because I don't think I want to even spend the money to buy that Dark Entries reissue. Rats, this is pre... Dead Moon, I forgot the name of them for a second. Pre-Dead Moon, like more punk band. Early Ultravox, really good. Vandals. First pressing Wire Records, really good, very different band. Yeah, so punk rock. Finally, down here, we have 80s new wave synth nerd, vaguely punk. And what I mean by that is like, everything was like kind of punk back then. I remember being a kid and it was like, oh, those crazy punk rockers like Blondie and the Talking Heads. And I was like, that's not punk, but everything's kind of punk. Gary Newman started as punk, Adamant started as punk, Devo had their very punk days. So there's a lot of vaguely punks here. So this includes, yeah, all your Adamanians, you know, early B-52s, weird things like Bar Talk, Pat Benatar, another one that's for my mom. Yeah, your Blondies, Flirt, that's a cool one. Kind of punk, sex, phony, arty, again, like everything was so weird and awesome in these days. Brian Brain, the only reason I know about this is because I put out the RX album and I was working with Martin Atkins and we had a release party where I did like a 5-hour DJ set of all vinyl that was all music that was either Martin Atkins or Ogre from Skinny Puppy projects, and that's how I found out about this and got some original Brian Brain stuff. It's almost like it's very Ralph Recordsy. It's his like weird new wavy stuff. Cars, you know, Chrome, really good band, one of my all-time favorite bands. It started in the 70s, but yeah, they're generally called like space rock. It's like weird space punk stuff. And I got to work with Helios, and I put this album on vinyl for the first time. Glad to have done that. Delta 5, really cool, weirdo girls. Pretty uncomfortable on the floor here. So I keep them pretty spaced out on the bottom shelves so they're easy to go through, whereas when you're standing, it's easier to pick through the tight things. Devo, pretty much all Devo. Gerald keeps up on making these pretty great compilations of oddball tracks. But yeah, you know, this stuff. So yeah, all the Devo stuff, more weird random Germans, DNA, which is kind of punk. Dome, this is the guy from Wire. End of Data, really cool, obscure. Flying Lizards, a lot of people don't, like this belongs on Ralph Records. Fred Frith, that's more Ralph Records. Another weird German thing I randomly bought. So yeah, Human League, Chris Isaac, really great solo album. Go See the Doctor by Kool Moe Dee. The couple, I only have like a couple rap things in all of this vinyl, and it's generally going to be 80s breakdance stuff. Magazine, Madonna, I actually have quite a few Madonna records. Paul McCartney's Only Good Album, and it's not a good album, it has 2 cool songs on it. MX80 Sound, the weird like heavy, almost like prog rocky, kind of metal-y band that was on Ralph Records. Your Mojo Nixons, all your Gary Newmans, from his early stuff to his more like, you know, 9 Inch Nails style current stuff. Perry Ubu, that's another one. Where do they belong? I mean, they had like their punk roots, but they changed so much and they sound like nothing, which is what a lot of people did back in these days. They're just their own thing. The Police, stuff like that. Your Psychic TV, I really like Psychic TV. Well, they have so much stuff, so, and they're also all different. Raincoats. What else? Oh, Scars. This is another one. I wanted to put out like some of their, like, I think I wanted to do their singles and maybe their BBC stuff, but that also didn't work out. Slits. So you see what I'm saying here with the vaguely punk. Like this stuff's kind of punk. Oh, Suburbs, really cool Midwest stuff. I want to do a record of all their early singles and their first EP, and I was talking to them about that, and it seemed like it was going to work, and that just faded away. Lots of secret records projects that just ended up not working out. Swell Maps. You're Talking Heads. This Heat, it's Oddball. Ooh. I really like Trio. That one might surprise some people. German pop rock band. All my Tuxedo Moons. Tuxedo Moon and yeah, Wall of Voodoo, that kind of stuff. And the only other rap I have is like Breakin' 2. Breakin'. Beat Street. Basically everything you need of rap music, right there. Crush Groove. Grew up with Crush Groove and the Breakin' movies. Oh, Electric Breakdance. That's the best one. Also comes with a poster to teach you how to break dance. All right, now we're against a different wall. A lot of people think I am a metal guy, but no, clearly not. And these two cubes are all I have for as far as like metal, or even like that also includes like 90s and later like hardcore and like anti-schism. Yeah, I mean basically you got like all your Black Sabbath in here, you know, your Candlemass records, all the Deaths, Deicides, DRI, first couple Guar albums, all your Iron Maidens, your early Judas Priest albums, well, King Diamond, stuff like that, your Melvins, Morbid Assault, is that what that's called? I don't know, but it's good. Yeah, weird death metal like that, Autopsy, good stuff. Your Motorheads, Neurosis with Jarbo, really good. Some Ohm, some Ozzy. Really good 90s Milwaukee death metal. For a long time, that was never on vinyl, and actually, even though I don't run a metal label, I tried to put that stuff out, but the guy held out, but it got released, so I'm happy. All the Slayer stuff, except their last album. Except their last album and their covers album. I don't need those two. Some Sun. Yeah, so that's all the metal stuff I have. Okay, so this section is not going to make any sense to anyone except me. It's these 2.5 cubes, and what this is Sonic Youth and everything related, Swans and related, and Tom Waits. Now, most people will say those things have nothing to do with each other. True. But to me, they all kind of started in the 80s. I know Tom Waits started in the 70s, but I don't like his 70s stuff. I start him in the 80s. They're three very unique things that have been around for several decades and are constantly changing. So yeah, you got your Sonic Youth, your Solo Thurston Moore, your Free Kitten, your Body Head, like Kim Gordon projects, their noise stuff. They've done a ton of stuff. Then you got your Swans, your Angels of Light, your Norman Westberg solo stuff, his the AN, like more like 90s, like almost like grunge side project that I released. Yeah, and Tom Waits. And this kind of bridges like the 80s stuff from over there to the next section, which is your late 80s, 90s, everything grunge and alternative. Because, yeah, when you lived back then, everything was like, that's what everything was called. Wonderful era. It is this, and half of this crate. I would say it's absolutely the last time great bands were on major labels. This is where it ends. After this, all good music goes underground, self-released, small label. But yeah, but in this era, I mean, you got your amps and your that's that AN record I just mentioned. Some Beastie Boys actually. Beck. This is the rare version with a totally different version of Pay No Mind on it. It has a verse on it you can't get anywhere else. Pretty nifty. This album, really good. Even if you hate Beck, check that one out. Belly and Bikini Kill and Breeders. Causey Way is a really cool alternative tentacles band. Daisy Chainsaw, very underrated 90s rock. All your Dead Moon stuff. Lots of Dead Moon, Dinosaur Jr., Faith No More, The Frogs, there you go, there's some Milwaukee 90s classics for you. Yeah, stuff like that. Helmet. There's some humming here. L7. I really like L7. I didn't back when they're around. I had no idea they're so great. Live Skull, another band I never heard of until recently. Really good 90s stuff. Lungfish, one of my all-time favorite bands. I also have in here The Pupils. It's a side project from those guys. Solo, Daniel Higgs, and Zones. That's all Lungfish people related. Morphine, your Mr. Bungle, your Mudhoney, your Mummies, your My Bloody Valentine, your Nirvana records. The last absolutely great rock band played on the radio. Pavement, Pixies, Poster Children, Primus, Scratch Acid, Sebado, Stereo Lab, Thinkin' Fellers, Union Local, 282. The first time I ever heard them was on a tribute to the Residents, and I hated it, but I hate covers, especially people trying to pull off Residents. Primus does it pretty well. So I automatically hated these guys, and Lacey actually showed me their albums, and they're really good, and nobody knows them. Early Stereo Lab is basically like French people ripping off Noi, and that's like in a good way, adding some French pop vocals to it. Yeah. Oh, and so you got your Wesley Willis. He once told a band I was in that he was going to do a song about us, but I don't think he ever did. So after that, you got your late 90s to 2000s, spazzy, indie, etc. In this era, there's nothing good on the radio anymore. And there still isn't today. All major labels are garbage, starting basically after the whole industry crash of the 90s. I know some friends of mine, a band called like the Buzzhorn, they got signed just before that happened, totally got screwed over. And I think that happened to Alligator Gun from Milwaukee too. Anyway, so yeah, here you really have to do more digging. Add N to X, really cool guys with a bunch of like vintage analog synths. This is also when people, like myself included, started buying analog synths because they were really cheap, no one really cared. And you had bands like this and Mo Cookbook, like starting to do stuff with them again, myself included. Arcade Fire, I heard this band and I was like, I don't get it. Lacey made me go see them. We saw them at Mad Planet. Tiny Club right before they blew up, and it was a really good show. I still don't listen to them on record, but yeah, that album was very good. Not generally my style. Bald Eagle, really great rock band. Missouri, maybe? Still talk to those guys once in a while. Birthday Suits, really great Minneapolis band. Blackheart Procession. This one I should really go through more because it's less likely people watching this knows this stuff. Blind Shake from Minneapolis, lots of good stuff from them. Blonde Redhead. What do we got here? Blood on the Wall. Call Me Lightning. Old friends of mine, Milwaukee. I really liked that band. Chariots, Midwest, I think. Can't think of where they're from. Childbite. I've known these guys forever. We're doing shows when they changed as much as my band, and we both started like kind of more like nerdy indie bands, and generally got heavier and heavier. They're now touring with like Phil Anselmo and Pantera and stuff. Good job, guys. Whereas I lost interest a long time ago in playing music. Chinese Stars. So in this era, there's a lot of this just like abrasive, like spazzy. That's what I think of when I think of this like late 90s, early 2000s, was there's a lot of yelping, myself included, and zebras. Country Teasers, really good, rarely known, real oddball guy. And that's what I look for, people that are general, for real weirdos. Daily Void, really cool Chicago guys. Deerhoof, played with them way back in the day. Eraserata, more like spazzy. X-Girl, yeah, saw these guys way back when I was a kid, ended up working with them, put this on vinyl. She also does vocals for me on a couple of my tracks. Jack Fair, real weirdo, the John Frusciante Heroin albums, way better than Red Hot Chili Peppers. FT Shadow Government, that's another great band. Like basically most of these people I know or have played with. Functional Blackouts, I think those are the same guys as Daily Void, or at least some of them. The Godspeedy Black Emperor stuff. The Great Tyrant, which then turned into Pinkish Black. Heart-Shaped Hate, band I played with all the time. Human Eye, Jextoth, Interpol. Yeah. Melt Banana, played with them several times. Mutators. This goes all the way over here, I guess. This keeps going. So I got a lot of this stuff because this is when I was actually involved in shows and touring and meeting all these bands. Neptune, absolutely great band. I think this is the band that like builds their own stuff, like oscillators and instruments. Actually, Shadow Government does a lot of weird stuff with like a table of oscillators, stuff like that. Numbers, more spazzy stuff. Old Time Religion. First Zebra show on the road was opening for these guys. They're really good. Phantom Limbs, another really good alternative tentacles band. Pierced Arrows, that was Dead Moon people after Dead Moon. Police Teeth. Raoul. The Rebel, that's the guy from Country Teasers. Really cool German guy. I played with on the Those Poor Bastards European tour. Salaryman, I think this is like Poster Children doing like more like electronic kind of stuff. Shoplifting, really good band. Six Finger Satellite. Yeah. Transformer Loop Bag. Best Madison band. Triclops, another great alternative tentacles band. Larry from Guantanamo School of Medicine is in this. He's always been very cool to me. Did a track with him. TV Ghost, played a couple shows with them. Vampire Hands, one of my favorite Minneapolis bands. Yeah, that stuff. And then after that, you get your late 2000s to nowish, and I really don't have much music. I really have kind of dropped out there, but it's again going to be more indie, not on a big label. Menace Rune, this is a weird droney cool band. Not a lot of stuff. Yeah. Absolutely not. This was this cool band. It kind of spawned off of the Heart-Shaped Hate, but then it had nothing to do with them after, generally. But yeah, cool. The last of the spazzy kind of synth rockin' bands. Savages, one of the last bands I liked. They only did 2 albums and they disappeared. That's way better than milking it way too long. Oh yeah, Pinkish Black. Randomly picked up one of their records on a whim, and one of my favorite bands randomly ended up playing the same festival as them in Europe. First show of a European tour I did, and they were playing it, so that was cool. Samantha Glass, that was a Madison guy. Skull Defects, really cool. Daniel Higgs from Lungfish sings on one of their albums. These are these crazy specimen box records that Larry from Triclops and all sorts of Alternative Tentacles bands put together. There's just like a million musicians on these. It's just like everyone he knows from every band like collaborating. I did a track with him and Jello Biafra and Nolan from Residence. We all did a track together. And Spectres, another one, really good band. I got a bunch more of their stuff over there that just came in the mail. The OCs, I only have a couple of theirs. People kind of go crazy with them. Kurt Vile, that's more of a Lacey thing. And then after that, recent country-ish. This is basically Those Four Bastards, Lonesome Wyatt records, and people I've met through playing with them. So it's like all your Hank 3 records, Rachel Brooke, basically everyone in here I would say I'm friends with. Dad Horse, German guy, really good stuff. Yeah, all your Hank 3s, Slack Eye Slim, met him many years ago in like Montana. 16 Horsepower, don't know these guys. This might be like the only band in here that I don't actually know. Shack Shakers, we've done shows with. Junk, I released this. This is another Rachel Brooke and Brooks. All the Slim Cessna. Slim Cessna, like they kind of started this like cool country thing as far as I'm concerned. Like they've been on Alternative Tentacles and stuff forever. I never was into that kind of stuff and I just ignored them until I was thrown into this world, and now they're one of my favorite groups of people. All their side projects are great. Sons of Perdition, it's another one. Yeah, all the Wyatt stuff. Woven Hand, he was in 16 Horsepower. I don't know him. I did play a show with him. Merle Wagner, I don't know her. Really good, sad folk stuff, great. And that's it. That's that whole section. And then I have a little tiny new ambient section, which is me, my friend John Mueller that does really cool projects, and like Norman Westberg stuff. And yeah, that's about it for this wall. All right, this is the last section. You probably, well, maybe you noticed, but there's nothing about anything goth or like industrial or anything like that in the 80s or anywhere else. It's because it's all right here. This is basically the Haunted Ones section. If you don't know, once in a while I do like a DJ night with Lacey called Haunted Ones. That's goth, industrial, dark wave, minimal wave, whatever the hell you want to call any of it. This is the most of it. I mean, we'll also pick stuff from the other sections, but this is the bulk of that scene. So, you know, it's anywhere from Certain Ratio, Adult, which is a band that started in like the 2000s that at the time I really didn't like them and they really grew on me. They do have some like cheesier stuff, so you never know what you're gonna get. They started more like rockish. Here's a lathe cut I did of And One tracks just so I could DJ their stuff because you can't get this stuff on vinyl. Asylum Party, all the Bauhaus records, Birthday Party. They're more of an Australian punk band, but they got some gloomy stuff. So Birthday Party, Blank Dogs, which is an oddball, like 2000s keyboard guy that no one knows. Boy Harsher, not my thing. That's a Lacey thing. Bunny Drums, Cabaret Voltaire records, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, lots of Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. Millions UK, that kind of stuff. Christian Death. Clock DVA. The First Cocteau Twins. Lots of Coil. Not lots of Coil. Coil has a lot of albums, so I really have to make sure I like a Coil album before I buy it, because you never know with them. There's a lot of it. Some Chris Connolly, like solo 12 inches. Your Julie Cruz albums, of course, all the Cure. I cut Cure off after Disintegration. Cyberactive, cool Ogre with Bill from Frontline Assembly. They just started doing stuff again. This is a really cool record Martin sent me. The Damage Manual, where he actually, like, by hand glues all this stuff together. Touring his workspace was very, very cool and motivational. Dance Society, Dark Day, the early Dead Can Dance stuff, as well as their last couple albums. Some Depeche Mode. This is actually my favorite Depeche Mode. Durplan, your DAF, your Dieform, yeah, Download, more, lots of, big Kevin Key fan. Drab Majesty, I don't know what that is. That's a lacy one. I don't know much new stuff. Echo and the Bunnymen. Einstürzen Neubauten. I think I say that correctly. One of my favorite bands. Fad Gadget. I used to have all the Fad Gadget albums. I realized all you really need is their first one and then the greatest hits. That's my 2 cents. Front 242, another one I really like. It's the only reason I bought a Drumulator. Front 242, Frontline Assembly stuff. Glorious Den, really cool, great Joy Division ripoff band. Can't think of where he's from, maybe Swedish. But yeah, they did 2 albums. Growzone, another oddball. Hyde, this is one of the only like current bands that I know and like. Roland S. Howard, he was in Birthday Party. He does not get the credit he deserves. I think he's absolutely as important as Nick Cave in that band. He's got some solo albums that are as good as any Nick Cave album. This is a really cool French guy. He still does stuff. I don't know much about him. Yeah, your Joy Divisions, is this, yeah, Edward Cospel. This is the guy from Legendary Pink Dots. Cos Products, your Kevin Key solo albums. Killing Joke, lots of Killing Joke here. The Knife is a band people are surprised I like. I think this is one of the coolest albums that's come out in the last 20 years or so. Felix Kuben. Lead into Gold. This is actually something current. It's very rare I buy anything current. Leather Strip albums. I heard of this from a Kevin Key little video where he talks about some oddball records he has, and I love this record, so thank you, Kevin Key, for that one. Legendary Pink Dot stuff. I can't say that, it's French. Me in like 2002. Your Lydia Lunch. David Lynch. These 2 David Lynch records he made are so good. Really wish he would have done more of that. Some Malaria. Minimal Man. All your Ministry stuff. Modern Art. This is a really cool one. The early modern English stuff is almost like Bauhaus level really good. And let's see what I've got. Murder Inc. I actually did not know this band. Martin gave me this like super deluxe new pressing he made of it. Thank you very much, Martin. I love it. It's like Killing Joke with Chris Connolly singing. So awesome. My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult, Neon Judgment, New Order, your Nine Inch Nails, 1919 Total Killing Joke ripoff band. If you can get by that, this album's awesome. It is just like the first Killing Joke album. Nights are Ebb. The Normal, that's a great single. You'll notice I do this with my 7 inches. It's because I hate 7 inches. And so in order for me to remember I have them, I stick them on a piece of cardboard and put them in with the rest of my real records. Oedipus Scream. This is a weird, like, local thing I randomly found. And the guy lives in Madison. And I was like, you should give me that. I was thinking about reissuing it or, like, selling those for him. Ogre albums. So a record he got mad at me for making. But this is all stuff that you can't get. Either Skinny Puppy or Ogre stuff. I only made this for the RX release party, so I could play like, you know, like stuff from Skinny Puppy Back and Forth 2 and like the Ogre stuff that's not been on vinyl, and his couple tracks he did with KMFDM just so I could like spin them in my DJ set. So that's what that's for. Ogre, Ogre, Ogre. This album I didn't like when it first came out, but really grew on me. I really like that one. Oppenheimer Analysis. Lacey discovers a lot of this stuff because she actually like searches for music online. I don't, so a lot of these obscure bands she'll bring up and then I'll find vinyl of it. OMD, only the early OMD stuff. Palehead, Ministry with Ian McKay. Pan Cow, the early Pan Cow is great. Party Day, it's an oddball most people don't know. Parade Ground, lots of oddball stuff here. The Pigface stuff, Portishead. It's another one of my favorite albums there. That third Portishead. But yeah, your Public Image, your Red Lorry, Yellow Lorry, your RX, your all your Skinny Puppy, lots of Skinny Puppy. Suicide, Starter, who else is in here? Tear Garden. They have a new album I should be getting in the mail any day now. Throbbing Gristle. Oh, Twisted Nerve. I put all that stuff out. Yeah. So that's it. That is my records. And I put my recently added right there, so I remember I have them and they don't get lost in the shelf. That's it.